You'll raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may have a seat right there.
Would you kindly state your name for the record?
Thomas Treadway.
Mr. Treadway, what do you do for a living?
I'm a freelance graphic designer.
Okay. Do you know Natalie Cochran?
Yes, I do.
How do you know her?
We met through youth sports. Our kids are friends.
Okay. Did you know Michael Cochran?
Yes, I did.
How did you know Michael Cochran?
Through youth sports.
Was there a time that you would get involved in Mr. Cochran's Mr. and Mrs. Cochran's business?
Yes.
What was the initial involvement that you had with that business?
They would contact me. Mike would contact me about doing graphics, designs, signs.
For what? For the business?
I actually did the sign at TSG out on Eisenhower Drive.
Was he satisfied with your product?
Yes, he was.
And from there on, I presume, the discussion concerned your investment in the business, right?
Yes.
And in fact, it ended up and culminated in your investing a substantial amount of money.
Yes.
Would you kindly share with the jury how much you may have invested in that business?
I do not have that information. I would have to go through my CPA to get that.
But it was a significant amount.
Yeah.
Who did you deal with in terms of the investments?
Mike.
Okay. What did he tell you that, what you were investing in? I mean, obviously there wasn't like, give us X number of dollars and invest in something. What did he tell you about the investments?
It was for contracts for graphics, mostly.
For contracts for what?
For graphics.
Graphics. And were there any government contracts as well?
Yes.
What else were you investing in?
Mainly that.
Okay. Was there any great promise of great returns?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. And you actually, I presume you wrote the checks to the companies, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Through your contact with Mr. Cochran, you kind of learned to know him quite well, right?
Yes.
How well did you know him?
He was my son's favorite coach.
Okay. He was good at sports, wasn't he?
Yes, he was.
He was a bodybuilder, wasn't he?
He was very athletic.
Toughman competitions,
Yes,
pulling a hammer, right?
I believe so.
Any other sports activities that he was involved in?
Just through the youth sports,
What?
there was an alumni football game he played in, and
Okay. He appeared a model of health, didn't he?
yes.
And yet, what did you observe in about 2018?
Mike seemed really agitated, really not really himself.
When he was himself, what was he like?
Focused.
Focused.
Yes.
Task-oriented, wasn't he?
Yes. Very.
And then around 2018, he started being what?
It like I said, he wasn't himself. He didn't act the same.
Did he have any, well, was he ever confused?
There was an instance where he seemed very confused.
Did he complain about headaches?
Not to me, not that I remember.
When did he appear confused to you?
There was an instance where the families went to eat. We went out to eat, and there was an instance there.
Okay. Is that the Panera Bread situation?
Yes.
That wasn't one of his favorite restaurants, huh?
No.
In fact, he hated it with an unbridled passion.
Yes, he did.
And all of a sudden, he takes you to Panera Bread
Yes.
and says what?
We were sitting around the table together, and he looked at me and said, "You have a hat on." And, at the time, we laughed about it. I was like, "Mike, I always have a hat. I always wear a hat." And never thought anything about that until after. And it kind of was like, wow, that was really kind of weird for Mike to ask me. I didn't have a hat on.
Was he ever confused about where he left his car?
I can't say that I would know anything about that.
Was he, you said he was agitated. How was he, what was he agitated about?
We never discussed where the agitation come from. I mean, he just seemed really visibly agitated.
Okay. Now, did Michael, you knew that Michael went to the hospital in October and November of 2018, right?
Yes.
Did you see him before he went to the hospital in October and November?
I'm sure I did.
Okay. Do you remember what he was like, or what he acted like?
I don't remember instances, but I know that he was pretty sick.
Okay. And he stayed in the hospital on 2 different occasions then?
Yes.
Do you know whatever the doctors told him was wrong with him?
I never heard a diagnosis. We kept the kids, so we didn't weren't involved in that aspect of it.
Did he ever tell you what was wrong with him?
I heard black mold, which was brought up.
Did he ever? He said that he didn't like hospitals, did he?
No, he did not.
Never wanted to go back to the hospital.
Exactly.
All right. Did you ever know that he was using any substances to be more athletic, let's say?
Yes.
What do you know about that?
I don't know the details of what he took. I don't know, but Mike was very concerned with his body and his appearance.
Did he ever tell you he was taking substances?
I don't think that conversation ever came up.
Did you know from any personal knowledge that he was taking substances?
I would just gather that, with his physical appearance, that he would take supplements and various other things.
What kind of contractual relationship did you have with Michael? What did you do for him other than this first contract? Did you have any other work for him?
Yes, I did pretty much anything that was graphic-wise. I handled that for them.
Okay. How did he appear to you in January or in February of 2019?
January was I think was around the time that the Panera Bread, the hat comment came out.
And from then on, how did he appear to you?
He just, to me, he seemed, my opinion, that he seemed really wired. Really
He seemed what?
wired.
Wired.
Yes.
Did he ever tell you what bothered him?
No.
Did he ever suggest anything to you that he was in any physical discomfort?
No.
Never complained about his health?
No, not to me.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Truman.
Thank you. Mr. Treadway, could you go into a little more detail about you're a graphic designer? Is that what you are?
Yes.
Okay, what does a graphic designer do?
I designed their sign out in front of their business. I did a design for a firearm. I designed T-shirts. I designed baseball uniforms, logos for the baseball uniforms.
Letterhead? Does
No.
anybody do letterhead anymore?
No,
So you never had any involvement with any of the letterhead that the Cochrans might have utilized, or specifically the defendant?
no.
There's a fraudulent document that the defendant sent around on Bank of America letterhead. Would a graphic designer have?
I'm going to object to the characterization of it. We don't know what document it is. We already are calling it fraudulent.
All right, let's just call it a straight-out document at this point.
Thank you. A Bank of America document. Would a graphic designer create this document?
I would guess
Okay, but you're saying it wasn't you.
no.
Who's Lacey Treadway?
My wife.
Your wife. And she's a notary?
Yes,
And she did notary work for the Cochrans?
yes. To my knowledge.
Pardon?
To my knowledge.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, let me take you to the date of Mr. Cochran's collapse, February the 6th of 2019. Were you asked to come to the Cochran residence that day?
I wasn't asked. I called Natalie to see if she needed some help.
Out of the clear blue, or how did that happen?
She had texted me and told me Mike had failed.
Okay. Did she send you the picture with that, or just tell you?
I'm not sure of that, and I'm not sure of that.
Okay. Do you know what time you got to the Cochran house?
It was in the evening. It was late. I taught classes at Concord, so it was late in the evening.
Graphic design classes?
Yes.
Okay. Take a look at this. Oops. Relative to when Chris Davis appeared, according to you, when did you show up?
What was the question again?
Well, Chris Davis appeared at the Cochran house while you were there, correct?
After me, yes.
And so you got there how much before he did?
I'm unclear.
Take a look at your text.
10 or 15 minutes before Chris got there?
Okay. And you don't have any reason to question your text, do you?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. You were one of the people that helped take Mr. Cochran to the car?
Yes.
Okay. And so when the defendant said that, you would not dispute that. You were absolutely one of the people. Right?
Right.
Okay. Who else helped carry Mr. Cochran to the car besides you and Chris Davis?
It's really unclear. I know Penny Carrico was there. Her husband, Mario, was there. I don't remember exactly everyone that was there at that time or helped carry Mike.
You just know you did,
I carried Mike, helped Mike carry Mike to the car.
and Chris Davis did.
And Chris Davis.
There may have been some others that helped, but those are the two, you two for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've indicated you were there about 10 or 15 minutes before Chris Davis arrived. The defendant seems to indicate that you thought Mr. Cochran was getting worse. Can you explain that to us?
I do not remember having that conversation.
Okay, so you don't say, hey, I think he's getting worse, we need to do something?
I'm not a medical professional. I can't evaluate that.
Fair enough. After Mr. Cochran died on the 11th of February of 2019, do you recall giving the defendant some advice as to what she should do legally?
I don't recall that.
Does that help you remember?
Yes.
Okay. And why were you suggesting that she should make that timeline?
In any circumstance, I wouldn't know why you wouldn't do that.
And you were also helping her remember that she checked Mr. Cochran's vital signs, correct?
That's what it says.
She asked for your assistance in mounting her defense, didn't she?
No, not that I know of.
Okay. Did she ask you to look into Michael's phone?
Not that I remember.
Okay, well, that it's been a while back. Let's take a look at this.
Can you folks read this on the screen? Okay, because I can't. But happily, I have a little monitor right here.
Well, they don't fit very well on there, but she'll bring you his phone to crack his phone. You remember that now?
I remember looking at the phone to see if there was anything that I could help her with there.
And you were trying to figure out why she couldn't get into it. You asked her some questions about that, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, Mr. Treadway, you were asked to provide statements to the law enforcement people that were investigating your friend's death. What was your response to that?
No, thank you.
So you were not interested in cooperating with the state police, people who are investigating this?
No, thank you.
Michael was a friend of yours?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And you made a very succinct comment about what you would tell them. Remember what you said?
Not right offhand.
It's a
If you-
statement, they won't get shit from me, come to your recollection?
If that's what the text message says, then that's what it is.
And that is the way you felt about it. They weren't going to get any cooperation out of you.
If that's what the text message
No,
says.
I didn't ask you if that's what the text message said. I asked you if that's what your position was. They were not going to get any help from you that would hurt the defendant, correct?
I don't recall ever saying that.
No, you didn't say that, but that's what your position was, wasn't it?
My position was no, thank you.
No, thank you, as in you're not going to get any help from me.
I didn't say no help. I said no, thank you.
No information from you.
No, thank you was my response.
let's see this again. Well, they ain't getting shit from me. That's your response.
If that's
Not
what-
no thank you. That's your response,
Okay.
correct? That's all the questions the state had.
Redirect Mr. Victor.
Were you informed that Michael Cochran actually locked the cell phone to the point that Natalie Cochran could not get into it?
That was what was conveyed to me.
So some of those messages that we saw in court were the messages sent by Michael Cochran, not Natalie Cochran,
Yeah,
because she had no access to it.
exactly.
And then, so and he controlled that situation, didn't he?
It was his phone.
It was his phone. So then, after he died, she wanted to know what was on it, what the messages were, right?
Right.
And she asked you to help you decode it.
If I could, yes.
It's not a big deal, is it? You
If
didn't
you,
think it was a big deal.
I didn't think at the time that was a big deal.
Okay. Now, the prosecutor asked you, and it's still on the screen, about this, well, they ain't getting shit from me. Well, would you care to enlighten us as to why?
I was asked if I wanted to give a statement, and I did some research before I talked to them and told them no thank you.
Would you care to show us what type of research you did?
I did some research and I found a document that had some information about some witness tampering, and so I didn't think that was someone that I needed to talk to.
Witness tampering. Who tampered with witnesses?
There were several names in the article.
But it wasn't my client who tampered with witnesses.
No,
Somebody else tampered with witnesses according to that article, and that's why you refused to talk to the police.
exactly.
What kind of witnesses are we talking about in this case?
No, not in this case.
I see. So you did not believe that talking to the police officers would be appropriate because they weren't trustworthy. Is that what?
Correct.
Okay. And is it true that there were very specific officers that were mentioned there?
Yes.
In that article. All right. Okay, that's all.
Anything further, Mr. Truman?
So this is a generic witness tampering fear that you had and not related to the investigators in this case, is that correct?
The article contained names of investigators in this case.
And this article came from where?
The Charleston Gazette.
And they accused the investigators in this case of tampering with witnesses?
Not with this case, the case that they worked on previously.
And it specifically named Heinzman and Bledsoe?
Yes, sir.
And this is a Charleston Gazette article.
Yes, sir.
And you don't know if there's any merit to that or not. That was just a report in the Charleston Gazette.
I'm pretty sure there was a settlement involved.
You don't know if there was any merit to it. You just know what you read in the Charleston Gazette.
Exactly.
Okay. Which means you may not know anything. That's all the questions the state has.
Last comment by the prosecutor.
Overruled. I'll allow it. Any further questions, Mr. Victor?
That's all the questions I have. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any reason to hold this witness?
None from the state, Your Honor, thank you.
Any reason to recall this gentleman?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You may step down. Mr. Treadway, you are excused. Happily, ladies and gentlemen, we are right at the noon hour, and we will take our luncheon recess at this time. Please be back in your jury room a little bit before 1 o'clock, and we will try to start up promptly. Do not discuss the case among yourselves or with anyone else. Please do not view, observe, or listen to any reports concerning this trial or matters concerning this case. Enjoy your lunch. You may go with the bailiff now to your jury room. All right, we'll break for lunch and start back up at 1 o'clock.